How do you go about communicating something with the front office, or do you at all?
It's not something I've done yet, but where I'm at in my career, I feel like, with Jerry and Justin, I think honestly it could just be a conversation. I think,
Nice.
I've earned the right to have that conversation with them, and they respect me enough to listen and give me their feedback back, and I'm either going to like it or I'm not.
Fly ball onto the track, at the wall, it's gone! Home run!
Turns on a ball, deep right field, and gone!
What a game, what a moment.
All right, I am pumped to welcome onto the show friend of the pod, Ty France, first baseman for the Seattle Mariners. Ty, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining me.
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. First off, congrats, new baby boy, new dad. How's dad life going?
It's been great. He's incredible. He month old yesterday, so he's growing up fast. But no, it's been great. My wife, she's killing it at home with him. It's definitely an adjustment, but she's doing a great job, and he's been real good so far. So very thankful.
What's the biggest adjustment as a guy that does not yet have kids? Biggest adjustment, sleep schedule? What is it?
Yeah, definitely sleep. He's up every like 3 hours drinking a bottle, so you learn to adapt, and changing diapers is another big one. But it's just you get used to it.
You notice any dad strength yet in BP or anything? Is it there?
Yeah, BP, it's there. I just needed to show up in the game now.
So let's talk about the Mariners. Mariners get off to a slow start this year, but ever since, the rotation has been honestly on an all-time great run right now. What has it been like playing behind those guys?
Easy. I mean, honestly, you can't say enough good stuff about those guys. They go out every night and they dominate. And it's nice for us knowing, like, okay, we don't have to go out and score 10 runs a night. We can give them 2-3 runs and they're going to be able to back that. So it's been fun to watch, and I'm not surprised. They've done it every year. The pitching's kind of carried us since I've been in Seattle. So, it's not surprising at all, but what these guys are doing is something special.
Are you aware of the stat that George Kirby has more games started than walks in his career?
I heard that the other day, actually. I think it was from you. I think you might have mentioned it.
63 games started, 45 walks in his entire career.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, just he dominates. He just fills up the zone, and I know he takes a lot of pride in throwing strikes. It's something he really works on, and I'll look up in a game and he'll be in the 7th inning and there'll be 14 balls on the scoreboard, and I'm like, how do you do that? But no, it's special.
It's interesting. I was talking to I have Smoltz on every week, and we were just talking about the Mariners rotation a lot. And he was saying it's different with y'all's rotation in terms of, you look around the league and everybody is trying to throw as hard as humanly possible. And we talked about George Kirby, and it led to the rest of the rotation and just how it's a little different. And he said it feels like with the Mariners, it's about getting outs, and it's about being efficient, it's about getting deep into the game for your team. And I guess I know you're not part of the rotation, not in on all the pitching meetings, but is that what it feels like? Does it feel a little different from y'all's rotation than every other team out there? Not team specifically, but just guys going out trying to throw 103 miles an hour every time?
Yeah, yeah. I can't really speak for teams around the league, but I know these guys. They take a lot of pride in dominating the zone and going out and throwing strikes. I know Woody. He harps on them. First pitch strike, getting after it. So when you look up and you see these guys in the 7th, 8th inning and they're only at 80 pitches, it just goes to show, they mean business. I think they know how good they are now, and how much we value them. And by them extending from, instead of them coming out with 100 pitches in the 5th, them being at 80 pitches in the 5th makes a huge difference for us. So our bullpen's been elite too. So if we can get those guys a lead in the 8th, we're in a real good spot.
I know offensively the team isn't yet where you want to be and the offense as a whole wants to be. Does the pitching staff being as good as they have been and will be, I think there's an argument it's the best pitching rotation in the league, does that take pressure off of the offense? Does that put pressure on the offense to be better? Where does that how does that affect the offense as a whole?
I don't know. I don't want to say it puts pressure on us because, like I said, we can go out and we can score 2 runs and know, George Kirby's got our back or
Yeah.
Luis has got our back. So it's a little bit of taking pressure off of us, but at the same time, you want to be able to give those guys a comfortable lead so they're not stressed out, the whole time they're on the mound. So I think it's a little bit of both. But I think, kind of like you mentioned, we're not all clicking on the same cylinder right now. And once we do, it's going to be, this team's got a lot of potential and a lot of upside to it.
I agree completely. I think the team is built to win. It's built to win in the playoffs. You got to get there first. But to everyone that might talk about the offense struggling right now, I would say it's the beginning of May. Let's pump the brakes. It's been just over a month. But when the offense as a whole is struggling, I know there's guys doing well and then struggling, but as a whole, when the offense isn't doing great, what is for a major league team, what is the plan to get out of it? Do you just put your head down and keep going with the same routine? Are there more meetings? Like, what is the plan of attack from hitting coach to the guy, hitting last to come off the bench? What's the plan to get out of it as a team?
There's a lot that goes into it, and every guy's different. And I think it's not necessarily so much the game planning and tweaking all that stuff because we do a very good job here of being prepared going into the game. I don't everything from the hitting coach all the way to the last guy, like you mentioned, like our plan and our approach is there. We all work. So I think it's just, when you do have like 2 or 3 guys that are hot, really leaning on those guys. And I think we've learned this year that when a couple of those guys do get hot, they do a very good job of not putting extra pressure on themselves to feel like, okay, they have to do more. They do a very good, we do a good job of just putting good at bats together. I think that's the biggest thing. If we can, if you are struggling, find a way to draw that walk and get the guy that's hot up. Just kind of, I know it's very cliche, but pass the baton method. And I think, so far we've done a very good job of that when, things aren't going well.
It might be cliche, but it really does hold true in baseball. Offense specifically it's a big snowball one way or another. When one guy gets rolling, oftentimes everyone gets rolling and vice versa as well. So, I mentioned it's early May and anyone talking about the offense, pump the brakes. Well, you look up right now, and at the time of us having this conversation, the Seattle Mariners are in first place in the AL West and playing good baseball. And you guys are up there at the top. The Astros have won the last few years, struggling big time right now. What is the goal for the 2024 Mariners in the clubhouse? I know the goal elsewhere in front office might be 54%, but the goal for the team on the field, what is it for 2024?
To be honest, man, we have a World Series team, and I think every single guy in this locker room believes that, and we know that. And we look up at the beginning of May and realize we haven't played our best baseball yet, and we're in first place. So I think there's a lot of room for growth, and I think that excites guys because once we do get hot and once we start playing our style of baseball, the sky's the limit for this team.
Yeah, I agree completely with the way the team is built. I said this before. When I was talking with Smoltz. He said, don't count this team out to win a World Series. It's built around pitching. Offense gets hot. Next thing you know, nobody wants to face the Seattle Mariners. And I think there's a lot of reasons why. But let's talk about last year. I know it ended about as tough as it could have. It was a 3-team race to get to the playoffs. 2 of the 3 teams in the AL West end up getting in. You guys are the one on the outside looking in. Rangers and Astros get in. The ending of the year, you're playing the Astros, you're playing the Rangers. Next thing you know, season ends. And I know Cal came out with some comments right at the end of the year about some lack of moves in the front office. There seemed to be some back and forth in the offseason, clubhouse and front office. When stuff like that gets out publicly and people start hearing about those things or those conversations happening, do guys in the locker room get pissed? Does it create any turmoil in the locker room or between players and front offices? Like when that stuff becomes public, what's the reaction there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there was just a lot of built up frustration at the end of the year because we expected to be in the playoffs coming off of 22.
Yeah.
After being there, we had a good year last year, and when season ended, we realized we weren't going to the playoffs and didn't really know what to do. So I think there was a bit of frustration because we held ourselves to a high standard and expected to be in the playoffs, and we weren't. So I think some guys were upset, and things were said on both ends, front office wise and player wise, and it's how the game goes. It's part of the business, and
Yeah.
I think this group does a good job of understanding we can't control what goes on up there. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, and it's they've done a good job this year of putting the group together that we got, and I think a lot of the guys in here are very very happy, with what went on this offseason and the additions that they made, and made us a better baseball team. And I think I'm sure internally there's some button heads, but it's a business at the end of the day. It is what it is, and you just got to move on.
I know you can't control what goes on up there. I can't control what goes on up there, and I'm obviously not going to ask you to say anything. But I think the general consensus is the Mariners can pitch. If you just add a big bat in the middle of that lineup, man, watch out. So it does get frustrating from the outside looking in, and then nothing happens, and then you hear some comments come out. So I would just ask you, how do you or would you, as a player, how do you go about letting an opinion be known, if you have one, with a front office that's in charge? Is it something, and I don't know if you have done it or haven't or would, but that's a tricky situation. If you have an opinion, you're part of the organization, you're a big part of their plans. How do you go about communicating something with the front office, or do you at all?
It's not something I've done yet, but where I'm at in my career, I feel like, with Jerry and Justin, I think honestly it could just be a conversation. I think,
Nice.
I've earned the right to have that conversation with them, and they respect me enough to listen and give me their feedback back. And I'm either going to like it or I'm not.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And so I know not every single guy in that locker room is comfortable having that conversation, but I think a lot of us are at that point in our career where, if we felt like it was super urgent or we needed to hear their side of it, they're around. Their doors are open, and it's just something that we could have a conversation about.
That is cool. I mean, it's cool to hear you say it at this point in my career. And you look at the Seattle Mariners, and you're still only 29 years old. You're turning 30 soon, but 29 years old, one of the longest tenured guys on the Seattle Mariners at this point. You're a savvy vet of this team, and for the first time in your career, obviously that comes with age, but you really do play like this savvy vet role on the team. What's it like? Are you embracing that role? Are you enjoying being a vet on a team at 29 years old?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I remember, my rookie year, the guys that I leaned on and went to, and just being able to be around long enough to kind of fill into that role now it's been pretty cool. Having guys like, Julio's a superstar, but he's 23 years old. For him to come up to me and talk baseball, ask questions, ask opinions, stuff like that, that means a lot. And so, we do have a good mix of older guys, younger guys, and this group meshes very well. So it's cool being in this position now, and just kind of looking forward to running with this role.
It feels like it wasn't all that long ago that you're on the show, and then I look it up, and it was basically 2 years ago. And you were right on the cusp of, I know we talked about it, and I was hopeful you were going to make your first All-Star game. That did end up happening. What was that moment like? The moment that you hear your name called for your first All-Star game appearance?
Yeah, that was crazy. Especially because I was the very last guy added, and so it was the day before all the All-Star stuff went on, and so I'd kind of, I don't want to necessarily say given up on that hope that I was going to make it.
Yeah.
But I kind of let it go. I was just like, okay, it's the Sunday before the All-Star break. There's no way it's going to happen. And then right before the game started on that Sunday, Scott called a meeting and I remember being dogpiled by the team, and
That's
such a cool experience. And then it being in LA, 30 minutes from my hometown, being able to get my parents, my wife there, some of my friends. It was definitely something I'll never forget.
What was the coolest part of that experience? A lot goes into it as a player, a lot of obligations, and then there's the home run derby, then there's the game, there's a red carpet. Personally, a lot of family there. What would you say was the coolest part of being an all-star?
Honestly, this is gonna sound dumb, but all of it was cool. Like there was not one thing where we would have done different, or would have changed. It wasn't until the game actually started that because like you said, we're so busy with signings and doing all that stuff, appearances, and it wasn't until the game actually started that I was able to take a step back and like realize what was going on and like take that deep breath and like I did it. Like this is really cool. So once I was able to take that step back, take it all in, and just embrace everything, that was probably the coolest part for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You mentioned you were born basically just outside of LA. So I have a really hard-hitting question for you here. You're born just outside of LA. Let's call it LA. You went to school at San Diego State University. So, most controversial question I'm going to ask. Who does Mexican food better, Los Angeles or San Diego?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go San Diego. I think, yeah, I'm gonna go San Diego. I don't know. I just think it's got a little, not much of an edge, but a little bit more of an edge.
I love that. So you guys have established the home run trident with the Mariners, and home run celebrations are really kind of taking the league by storm. I love it. The trident is one of the coolest ones out there. How did that come about? Who came up with it? Whose idea was it?
Yeah, I think it was at some point last year. I don't know how it got brought about, but JP was just scrolling Amazon and was like, "Hey, this is a good idea," and bought one on
It was
Amazon.
on Amazon. It's like taller than, it's huge.
Yeah, and that thing's like 60 pounds. It's heavy. Yeah. And yeah, overnighted it. And next day we had a trident in our locker room. So I don't know that you'd have to ask him the story behind it. I don't really know what made him think about that or go into that. But yeah, no, he's got some good ideas. So
Do you know how much the home run trident cost on Amazon?
no, I don't. I don't.
It's a good question.
I guess based off of size and durability, I'd say 70 to 100 bucks.
Wow. Pretty good deal. Pretty good.
That'd be my guess. I could be
Is it
completely
the same
wrong,
one?
but
Same one that you started, or has there been another one that's had to come in?
I think we got a new one this year. I think they replaced it because like after last year, all the guys gripping it and stuff with the pine tar on their gloves, it got like super sticky and discolored. So they bought a new one.
And there weren't many playoff wins in that one. Have to get a new one. This one has those playoff wins in there.
Yeah, we need the playoff wins.
The Twins have a homer sausage, by the way. It helped them win 12 games in a row. Thoughts on flinging a sausage around on the field and hitting homers to get 12 wins in a row?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do for 12 wins, but I mean, I think it's funny. I'm not a big, like, I'm not huge on celebrations and like Jazz does around every base. Like that's not me, but I think the fans love it, and I think the homer sausage is pretty funny.
If Ty France were to have a homer celebration, you're not doing the Euro step to home?
I don't have enough rhythm for that.
What are you doing though? If you were to
I'd trip over my own feet.
If you were to go all out, like as flashy as Ty France possibly can be, you hit a home run, what are you doing at home plate?
You got me on this one. I don't know. Give me some time. I'll get back to you on this one. I need some time to think about this one.
All right, deal. All right, if you a couple fun ones for you to finish up. First off, if you could add one hitter in baseball history to this Seattle Mariners lineup, who would it be and why?
One hitter in baseball history.
And it's not replacing anyone in the lineup. Just one hitter that you could plug in right in the middle or front or wherever this lineup. Who you adding?
I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm biased with it, but I would have loved to just see him as a player. Tony Gwynn. I would just to see, I got to play for him and just kind of how he ran things that way. But just I would have loved to see his routine and how he went about, being one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Did he share many stories with you guys? I know he was coaching, but did he share any stories with you guys from his playing days about, I mean, some of the statistics out there are remarkable just in terms, like some of the greatest all-time stats, I think, in terms of, Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox combined in their careers struck him out like 3 times ever, those are 3 of the best to ever do it. I mean, did he ever share stories sometimes where everybody just gathers around and listens to Tony Gwynn talking baseball?
He wasn't like, hey guys, sit down, I'm going to tell you a story type of guy. It was, hey coach, like, what happened during this time? Or like, if you came up to him and asked him questions about it, he would tell you the story. But he wasn't a big like, all right, everyone sit down, I'm going to tell you how I was the best. Like, it was, if you approach him, he'll give you the story. If not, like, it was business.
Yeah. Did you ever ask anything?
We wanted to know, like, we were dumb. We were young and dumb. So we wanted to know like the funny stories. Like, he told us one, I think it was an all-star game where there were some fans in center field, and he was a bigger guy, so they were chirping him about being overweight and just bigger, and someone threw a Snickers bar at him, and it landed next to him, so he just picked it up and said, hey, thank you, and then took a bite out of it. Stuff like that. He was really good about lightening the mood and giving us those fun stories more so than the serious ones.
I know, hearing you talk Tony Gwynn, who is one of the best hitters of all time, and you played for him and you say you're biased. If I were to ask you, and he's a left-handed hitter, so he's probably not the answer here, but if I were to ask you of anybody that's ever played, who do you model your swing after anybody, or is there anybody in particular that you dive in on their videos to help get you right?
Not really. There's no one. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I have such a unique swing that like it's hard to replicate guys or like imitate guys. But I mean, there's so many good swings in this game that you watch highlights and you're like, that's a pretty swing. But as far as me trying to copy swings, no, there's no one I really dug into too much.
To this point in your career, you're now established in your career, about to turn 30, had a nice long career to this point. What is your favorite stadium or city that you get to visit? Let's go outside of Seattle. Your favorite stadium to play in?
I got a handful. I really enjoy playing in San Diego. I think just the environment that they've created there, the fan base, and the city itself is really cool. It's always cool playing at Dodger Stadium. Growing up, 30 minutes down the road, and again, another. They just created good history there, and I think Minnesota's pretty cool. The field itself, the scenery is pretty cool. Honestly, there's a lot of good stadiums out there. There's not too many where I'm like, this place sucks.
Can you tell on the field in Minnesota that the stadium's built like straight up?
Yeah, you can. It's more so like looking at the buildings that are like inside the stadium, but like just outside the foul pole, just how tall they are. It feels like everything's on top of you.
To the contrary, least favorite stadium you got to play in?
As far as what? Like the playing surface, the crowd?
It all depends. I feel like I ask, so 90% of players answer Oakland, but then there's the 10% that they're just like, I can't hit for shit in this stadium. I'm 0 for 26, I'm saying, and it could be wherever. So it could be, you just don't like going there.
I'm going to just go playing surface because I think everything else about it is cool. I think Yankee Stadium's playing surface is one of the worst. Like I just
really
don't. Yeah, I think we've gotten, because they play football games and soccer games on that field sometimes, and I think we've gone there right after they've done that, and they'll like relay sod, and the grass will be going a different way, so the ball snakes, and just it's not great. So as far as like playing, but I think playing there is cool because the fans are rowdy.
Yeah.
I love going there in Boston because the fans are mean, they're funny. There's nothing funnier than a Boston accent telling you suck. So yeah, no, there's not too many places where I'm like, this, I don't want to go here.
You grow up dreaming of playing Major League Baseball. One of those places you dream of probably playing at some point is Yankee Stadium, and you get there and you're getting bad hops over at first base.
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, why? This is this is supposed to be like the mecca of baseball. Why are we playing football games on this field? But yeah, it was the last couple of years have been tough playing surface wise there.
Ty, I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for hopping on again. It's always so much fun catching up with you, and team's playing great right now, and excited to see. I do. I feel like the sky is the limit for this Mariners team this year, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
All right, just wanted to thank Ty France again for hopping on Flippin Bats. Really loved having him on the first time. Love being able to bring him back on and talk about this Mariners team that really is playing good baseball, and it is because of the pitching staff, and I do think that offense will get turned around. And I really did enjoy talking to him about the pitching staff and about the offense and what they do to get it turned around, and talking to him about the front office and how they can communicate with each other. I just really enjoyed that conversation with him, and I hope you all did as well. If you can, make sure you hit that follow, subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple or Spotify. That really helps. You can also watch everything we do on YouTube at Flippin Bats Pod there. You can watch every episode on Spotify as well, and follow us on TikTok. We're getting closer and closer to 100,000 followers. We're on all social media, but we really want 100,000 followers there, and we put some really cool stuff out. So again, appreciate Ty France for joining. Appreciate you all for listening. And until next time, my friends, remember, find your bat and flip it.